Hey guys, welcome back to the Book Haven with Rachel and Raven. We're so glad you're here today. Today we're going to talk about Sense and Sensibility and just wrapping the book up. I'm so excited to see what Rachel's thoughts are on this. So grab a cup of something warm and yummy, or maybe not, and let's get this episode started. Okay.
I know we could almost start saying grab something cold to drink because it's almost that time.
Almost.
It's getting to
Okay,
be
what is
warm.
your cold drink of choice? Wow, that sounded really strange. What is your cold drink of choice?
I don't know. I'm going through this phase of so funny enough, I guess it's been for sure a year. I guess more like a year and a half. I gave up sodas. And so I occasionally will have like a Sprite, but that's as crazy as I get with sodas. And so I will occasionally go to Sonic and get a cherry limeade. But I don't drink sodas anymore. And I say it because I miss it so much, but I've tried to like go back and drink them and they just taste horrendous.
Okay, but my cold drink of choice definitely is Coke. But during the summer, I love like a good iced coffee.
Yeah.
And so I've a couple of times I've stopped and got me an iced coffee, but I'm going to have to start doing it at home because they are expensive. But
they are so expensive.
We would like to hear what your guys' cold drink of choice.
Oh, yes.
Down on the comment.
Help me out. Help me find something that is. I'm kind of over the cherry limeades as well, too. Like they're so sweet. I'm telling you.
Do you like the pink drink at Starbucks? Because you can make it at home and it's just as good, and it's of course much cheaper. There's a recipe out there. So good.
I will have to. I've played around with making some of their drinks at home. I don't know. It's like if I'm going there, I'm getting the coffee. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how we got off on that, but
I know.
Anyways, we're going to talk about Sense and Sensibility.
Question of the day. Yes. Okay. I literally just finished the book. And so I'm not even completely sure how exactly I feel about it.
You're still in the processing.
I was shocked and flabbergasted that Edward did not marry Lucy. Like, almost to the point where I would even argue that doesn't even make sense that they didn't. I think that, okay, so my overall things before I get into all the nitty gritty is I really enjoyed this book. This book was fun. I felt like she did some things better in this one than I have been. But I say that she definitely perfected the art of the like switcheroos and everything in the later books.
Yeah.
Because, so for me, I really don't like, and I guess like there's going to be spoilers in this because there's no way to talk about it without it. But I just have a hard time with how it ended.
I can't wait to discuss this with Jackie too, because we were sidebar texting her and I because we were wondering how you were going to feel about the ending because you made some pretty bold statements the last live that we did.
Okay, so to me, these pairings make no sense. I don't like how this went. Okay, so I will still stick by the fact that I like Emma the most. I think that is my favorite Jane Austen. Again, I appreciated this one. It was fun. I do think at the end it feels a little rushed. When you have parts in the middle that are kind of just dragging on. And then it was like all of a sudden we had to like wrap it up at the very end. And so I think maybe that's why it doesn't feel like it totally made sense. Why do you like this book? Because is this your favorite Jane Austen?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is my favorite because of the ones that I've read.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's probably because I watched the movie on repeat growing up and then to actually read the story. It's probably more of that. It's probably more of this is my favorite Jane Austen movie.
Yeah.
But
is this the first time you've read through the book though?
Oh, no,
Or
no,
you've
no.
read the book before? Okay.
No, but although when we got to the end where Willoughby shows up again, and it kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger at like chapter, I don't know, 40 something, I was like, wait, have I read this before? Because I don't remember him showing back up. And then like I remembered um after that. But yeah, it was kind of a fun moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I like it. I just like the characters. I like Eleanor a lot. It probably has to do with those nostalgia. That was the only movie we watched for a long time.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a little bit of that. And I like all of the characters and the actors in the movie. You
Okay.
probably won't, but that's okay. Okay, so I think probably I just had this thought. Probably why I like this book so much, why I like this story. We'll just go with that. Why I like the story so much is because I think I relate the most to Eleanor, and I can feel
Yes.
all of her tension of everything that she's feeling inside, and the tension of not being able to express those things. I think that's why I like this story the most.
I would go out on a limb and say that I think Eleanor is the most um Jane Eyre-ish character that Jane Austen
Yeah.
probably ever wrote.
Yes.
So it makes sense that you would enjoy her. And I do think, knowing you, like, yes, there are a lot of similarities there. And so that's why I was kind of thinking you would like that
Yeah.
one. or or that's your favorite character in that. Um
But I
yeah,
want to be a little bit more like Marianne. So see, I kind of like, I mean, I want to find the balance between the two characters, but
yeah. But we
I don't
have
know.
like our natural reset of how we were,
Yep, sure.
like, yeah.
I'm
So
Eleanor.
I don't know that I feel like I related to any of the characters. Um, like, see myself in any of them. I don't know that I ever do that with Jane Austen, honestly, because it's not that I feel like I relate to any characters in Emma. I just enjoy them.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. Who would you be?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't
Are
feel
you
like I
Margaret?
yes, the forgotten character that they bring back at the end. Probably. Okay, so I think that okay, so going back to the beginning of the book and how I do feel like the world building is not as good as later books. I just think definitely the pin in this is that you can tell that this is the first book that she wrote. And I think it's so interesting, the springboard of all of the different characters that are then going to develop in the other books. You can see that their outlines in these characters in this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I find
I
that,
agree with that.
yeah, I find that super interesting. And I did think that there are a lot of comparisons in this book that are made um very obviously. This is like a great book, I think, to start with. If you were starting Jane Austen, I think maybe this is the one to start with, honestly, because it does such a good, very basic line. And then her other ones get more intricate. But this one, the comparing Willoughby and Edward all the time, or Colonel Brandon and Willoughby to Ed, like there's always a comparison going on, whether she's comparing the sisters to the other set of sisters, or even I feel
Yeah.
like she compared Miss Jennings with their mom, and then at the end, um, having the girls react differently to differences. There was just always comparison going on between, and it was always complete opposite reactions to things.
Yeah. I think the character too that I would say that I really liked and reading through it this time, I liked the way that she was developed through the story is Mrs. Jennings. Because in the beginning, she's like the most annoying
Hmm.
little gossip and whatever. But by the end, like you really you feel like, at least I did, I felt like, oh, Like she
Yeah.
has this really soft side and this maternal side to her. Um, so I was thinking about that last night, just about how her character developed through the story and how, yeah, how much you actually grew to love her. I think by the end, did you feel that way?
Yes. I think I started liking her more once they get to London, but then when she stays with Marianne and she's like, I'm not gonna leave, and her daughter is freaking out, her biological daughter is like, no, um,
Hmm. Get the
but
baby out of here.
yes, she probably was a germaphobe before she even knew what that, they didn't know what that was. But I thought that was just really sweet the way she said that she was going to stay. And then you get there's a line in there about how, like, if it were my child, like, I'm going to treat her like she was my daughter kind of thing. I just thought that was very sweet.
Yeah.
I did enjoy the mom in this one more than the mom in Pride and Prejudice or anything like that. But even still, I don't think that besides the Miss Jennings character, there really weren't very good motherly representation in this book.
Yeah. The Ferrises, they were fair. I always say their name wrong, but Ferris.
Yeah.
Anyways, they I
Yeah.
don't, and I wonder about that with Jane Austen, that all the mothers seem to be that way.
Well, and Emma's mother's dead. Like, spoiler alert, but
Yeah, but
um
yeah,
yeah.
but the other one, like in Pride and Prejudice, why are they
Yes.
always so dumb?
I don't
I mean,
know.
is that how she viewed her? Like, I mean, was she taking this from real life? I don't know. That would be
It
such
would
an
be, yeah.
interesting topic to
Yeah.
find out about. Like, who were these characters based
Yeah.
on?
I know. Um yeah, it was interesting to watch her develop the characters. I feel like there is something to be said that most, if not all the characters, maybe besides Mrs. Dashwood, actually develop and get to a better place. And maybe I would even argue that Mrs. Dashwood, so like their brother's wife, um, after her embarrassment of her brother being engaged to Lucy. Maybe that knocked her down a peg. But I feel like she does a good job in like developing everybody's arc. Definitely in other books where she goes down the line, she's okay with having people not be developed or like
Yeah.
get to a more mature place or something like that.
Did you end up liking, as the story progressed from like beginning, so thinking from the beginning to the end, did you end up liking any of the male characters better?
Um, no.
You didn't like any of them?
So I liked Colonel Brandon from the beginning. I felt like
Okay.
he was very level-headed um and stuff like that. So I only liked him more. I don't love how she wrapped up that stuff. So my biggest complaint is that I just don't like how she put the people together at the end. I don't. And maybe having reread that, because I feel like I did that with Little Women. Like I was like, no, you know, Lori should have been with Joe, like whatever. But reading it again and actually seeing the newest movie that came out, I'm like, okay, I get it. Like why it made more sense for him to be with Amy. But I really don't understand the Colonel Brandon and Marianne. I don't get it at all. Do you want to
Yeah, because I
explain it
mean,
to me?
I don't know. I think he's good for her. Is was the whole thing. Honestly, she
Yes.
needed somebody that was older, twice her age. Wasn't he twice her age? He was like,
N-
what wasn't he, 35? And she was
No,
like
no, was
17.
how old he
Yeah,
was.
he's 35.
Was he
Pretty
35?
sure he's 35 because they were talking about how ancient he was.
Right,
Okay,
and
but
her
anyways,
mom was 40. Yeah.
yeah, but I think that he is exactly who she needed. She needed someone mature and able to take care of her. But I mean, she had to get knocked down a little while, a few
Yeah.
notches to realize, I think, to realize that he was good for her.
I think my
Um,
problem was that their relationship was kind of just mentioned as a like, this is what happened. Um, but we were so invested in both of their stories to not have the actual story of them getting together, I think was a little frustrating.
that's true too. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Because you kind of miss that whole, like, it's just like they get together at the end.
Right. It's just
Yeah.
them. And it almost seems like I get the rationale behind it, I guess, but it doesn't, I don't know. It felt like oh, and by the way, I put these two characters together too.
Yeah, you didn't get to see their relationship develop
No.
very much.
And
Did you
so
feel
to
the same way with
me,
Eleanor and Edward? I kind of felt
yes.
that way too. Yeah.
Yes. So that was super okay. I think my jaw fell open when he was like, "No, she married my brother." Ha ha ha. Like um like I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is the turn we're taking?" Like it just seemed crazy. I think the way that I think it should have ended is that I don't even care if Edward and Lucy get married, he gets somebody else. I don't even care. I think that Eleanor should have married Colonel Brandon, and then we shouldn't have worried about Marianne being with somebody. I feel like that was the more compatible choice. But because she wanted to put Marianne with somebody, I don't know. Is that why I'm totally confused because in the middle of the book, Eleanor and Colonel Brandon have this conversation, and it kind of makes it seem like he's alluding to the fact that he likes her. Like he liked Mary Ann because she looks like a lady that he used to love. But and so that's why I was like, "Oh, they're going to get together." He doesn't really like Marianne, Marianne. He likes that she looks like this old love that he used to have. It does not make sense to me that they would that he gets with I'm totally flabbergasted and lost at how we got there. It wasn't like a circle. It was like a line through and this is the ending point that she wanted to get to and so she just made it happen versus like the logical steps of getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have liked to have seen that develop a little bit more. That
So
way, I mean, like the
did
development
you
of that
like
relationship.
that Edward and Eleanor get together?
Yeah, but that's because that's because in my head, because I've seen the movie
Oh.
first, this is the problem with me in watching movies, is that's who I have in my head. So, um, yeah, I did.
No, no, it doesn't make sense. And honestly, like hearing his explanation, like I was audibly saying no when he was trying to explain himself and
Who,
like
Colonel Brandon or
no,
Edward?
Edward.
Yeah.
Like no, you never get an explanation from Colonel Brandon. But from Edward, I was like, no, 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 don't do it. Don't do it, Eleanor. And then it was like, we're getting married. And I was like, no.
Oh, but I think I don't know. I don't
Maybe
know. I
maybe
think
watching the movie will put it in a different light. But that's my initial reaction was that I was like, just I don't know. I was not okay that they got together. I think and I get his reasoning of saying I got swept up in this idea of love. I thought I was in love. I thought I knew who she was. Like, and wow, does that paint Lucy in some sort of light that's like, ooh. But because he really kind of dumps it a lot on her, I feel like. Um,
yeah.
there are a lot of, shall we say, red flags from Edward that Eleanor should have gone, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I could see some red flags from him. I mean, he definitely doesn't seem to have a spine.
No. No. Oh, no.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe that's he just seems very like wishy-washy, and that's one of the things that is confusing because and that's why I honestly truly thought that Colonel Brandon was going to be like the huge love interest whatever because most of her in the books that I have read the character that gets the main character in the end is a solid, rational, logical person who never loses like his cool or never gets sucked into anything or and is always like above reproach and all of this stuff. Edward did none of those things. Like
yeah,
so it's
you're
very
right. You are
interesting
right
to
on that.
me. It's very interesting. And again, like this is her first book. I guess she was feeling it out, whatever. Um I just don't think that Edward was good enough. Like I don't know.
I mean, I guess I could like it because it wasn't predictable. And I feel like with like what you just
Yes.
said with Jane Austen, most of her stuff is very predictable. Like you know pretty quickly in most of her books like who is going to
Yes.
end up with who. At least the main character for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's so appealing to me because
Maybe.
it's not.
It's
I
different.
mean,
Yeah.
unless you've read it before, but yeah, it's different than her other stuff. With it being her first book, that's really interesting. And then going on and reading some of her other stuff. I mean, we've talked about this before too, just seeing her, how she developed in her writing. So it is interesting knowing that this is her first one. And yeah, I don't know.
So I think I would give this a 4 stars. It was very fun and enjoyable. I thought it was way easy to read compared to maybe some of her other stuff where you
Yeah.
have like this has a lot of characters, but some of her books get a little crazy with how many characters she's got going on. Um but I do not. So I really thought this was going to be a 5, but I do not like how she ended it. So for me, that's a 4.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
it's a 5 for me. Oh no, actually, no. I just looked at my old rating and it's a 4.
well, there you go.
And I don't even know.
You
Like, I don't.
maybe
Oh, this is so funny, Rachel. Okay, so this is 2020, Annette.
okay.
Okay, this is 2020, Annette. This is my review, so y'all should enjoy this. It said I liked it, but definitely preferred Pride and Prejudice to this one. I don't remember. That was an imposter. Someone wrote a review for me. It's AI.
Have you read Pride and Prejudice between then and now? Like between 2020 and
Yeah.
now?
Wait.
So maybe
Yeah. Didn't we
that's
read it together?
well, I thought so, but maybe that's why maybe you thought you liked Pride and Prejudice more until you reread that one.
Hmm.
I do think there are
Interesting.
seasons where some books are going to be way better and but if you read them later you're like I can't believe I thought that was good or vice versa.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Well, I guess it's a 4.
well, you can go we will
Oh.
allow you to change it if you would like, but
No, no, no.
but
I'm gonna
I
leave it as
wonder
is.
how much of like you said, you liking the book because of your tie to the movie. I don't know if you're seeing clearly.
Probably not. Probably not. That's very likely.
So that's where I think maybe you might be a smidge like
It
not
might be a
credible,
little bit,
but
yeah,
yeah. I don't know if I can trust you.
skewed in my thinking. Yeah. Well,
If
that's
you're
fair.
if
That's
you're a
fair.
reliable source because and I get that like we just talked about in a couple of episodes back about A Walk to Remember. I'm so terrified to reread that book because I have such
Yeah.
like strong feelings of when I first read it. And I so I don't know if I can actually say that that's a good book, but I know that. I think this needs to be your A Walk to
It's
Remember.
mine. Uh,
I don't know, but
okay.
I
I'll
do think
accept it.
so.
I'll accept it.
So I do think that this is, I mean, a 4 for me is I would recommend people to read it. Like I said, I think this would be a great one to give to a teenager who's maybe just getting into classical books. I think there's enough going on. It is fast enough pace most of the book. Um, and then at the end, it's like on fast forward. I think you get a good sense. And there is a lot of comic relief. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but there is enough. Um, so yeah, I had fun reading it.
Yeah, I enjoyed
So
it too. I'm
you,
excited for you to watch the movie so that we could talk about
the movie.
that. Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to make a separate podcast about reviewing movies, but there wouldn't be very many because Raven doesn't watch that much.
Okay. So we enjoyed so much last month doing the cold run of The Women by Kristen
Mhm.
Hanna, where we both read the book and then we jumped on and recorded a podcast, literally very hot off the press. Like we finished the book.
Yeah.
We started the book, we finished the book, and then by the end of the week, we recorded a podcast. And so we wanted to do another one like that. So we are going to do a cold run like that on, I don't know, is that the right word to call it a cold run? I think it's kind of a fun. Is that a,
Sure.
I just made it up. So this is the book we're going to do. There is a show coming out. So if you guys would like to join us on that fun journey, and then you can listen to the whole episode in one session, and you don't have to worry about getting spoilers or anything like that. But this is one of my favorite books. I did read this book, so I'm going to reread it because it's been probably 3 years, because I think I read it when it was coming out in 2021. So it's been a little bit, but I loved this book. And but we haven't really, I mean, I didn't really talk to you a lot
Well,
about
so
it.
we've talked about
Oh,
this
you tried
book.
it. Yeah.
Yes, because this is one of the ones that I said that you loved and I DNF'd. Um, but I did think that it was my headspace of when I was trying to read it. So
Right.
I I got excited because I saw that the show was coming out and I picked it up and I started reading the first couple of chapters and I was like, "Oh my word, we should definitely talk about this book." So, that episode is going to be April 3rd. So, you have time to
Yeah.
squeeze it in, people, of
Okay.
what
So
you're
actually,
reading.
I read this in 2022. So I was just trying to make sure that my year frame was
Yeah.
correct. Um, but it is this very interesting story.
And you
I don't
recommend
know
the
if,
audiobook, right? Like,
yes, because I mean, I don't know what y'all, I mean, I read along. So I listen and read along, but there's a lot of like, I don't know, Russian places and that can like trick me up a little bit
yeah.
if I'm just reading the book because I get frustrated with not knowing what the actual word is. So, but yeah, I do recommend the audiobook. It's a good one. It's on authentic, accent, and which makes it a lot of fun to read too. So,
Yeah.
um,
See,
I
and
don't
I
know
tried
if
I
anybody else would say this, but this kind of his writing. I don't know what you think. Um, Kind of reminds me of Anthony Doerr.
okay.
Would you say that
I think so,
a
which
little
is the
bit?
guy that
Yeah.
wrote All the Light We Cannot See. Yes. There's
Yeah.
definitely some flowery language,
Yeah.
and I've already picked out. So I got the book from the library. I tried to do the audiobook last time and I just couldn't get into it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to try the actual book this time. And so I started reading it and I was like already tabbing things. And I don't know if this is like a new era in my life because I never underline or tab or anything, but or maybe it's because of the podcast. But I like was marking stuff and I was like, oh, obviously I wasn't underlining in a library book, but I was doing tabs. And I was like, I think I'm going to need to get my own copy because I was way more into it reading it than when I was doing the audiobook. I don't if that helps too. If you're not really connecting to the book with the audio or vice versa, maybe switch it up and see um if that helps.
Yeah. Did you get your own copy?
So, yeah. So I ordered it on Thrift Books. Shout out. Thrift
Yeah,
books
and
if
I
you
would
want to
recommend
sponsor
going to thrift books because they've already changed the cover to the or to the TV
to the
show.
movie. Yeah.
So this is is it a movie or a show?
I think it's a show. Did I say movie?
Okay, you said movie. I'm just making sure. But anyways, this is the original cover. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess when the paperback was
That
released,
better
but
be the one that I get. Ugh, I've had that happen to me before where the cover came and it was different. So you do run the risk of that with thrift books. But most of the
yeah,
time you get the cover that you think you're getting. But thrift books is a used online bookstore basically, and you get points and so you can earn free books. I would say it's about the same price as Amazon used books on Amazon most of the time.
yeah.
Sometimes Amazon can be cheaper, but thrift books is always doing deals and sales, and you can get free shipping and all that stuff. So
The audiobook. If you go through the library, just know that the wait is going to be a long time.
yes,
So you might as well just use a credit on Audible, and
just bite the bullet and
if you're gonna do the audiobook, yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great because that's what happened to me with the women, and honestly, that's why I ended up with the book in the first place because of A Gentleman in Moscow, because the library hold was ridiculous. It was like 10 weeks. So just know that. Thanks a lot for hanging out with us today. And hopefully, you can leave your reviews of Sense and Sensibility and get A Gentleman in Moscow so that you can be ready to go when we do that review. Thanks for listening. Bye. Wait. Okay.